For most of us, the US dollar feels like the unshakable center of the world economy, a currency so powerful that entire nations rise and fall on its movement. But what if I told you that long before the dollar existed, long before America even became a country, a completely different currency ruled the global economy? A currency accepted on every major trade route, from Asia to Europe to the Americas. A currency so dominant that even the mighty empires of China, Japan, Spain, Britain, and the Ottoman world relied on it for international trade. Today we travel back to the 16th, 17th, and 18th centuries, when a single coin made of silver, stamped with a crown shield and carried across oceans, became the world's first true global money, the Spanish silver dollar, also known as the pieces of eight. This forgotten currency didn't just dominate trade. It shaped the rise of empires, funded wars, built global supply chains, and even inspired the very design of modern currencies. This is the story of the money that ruled the world long before the dollar ever existed. To understand how one coin achieved such global dominance, we need to start in 1545, when the Spanish Empire discovered the massive silver mountain of Potosi, located in modern-day Bolivia. The discovery was so enormous that Potosi became known as the mountain that eats men. But it also produced nearly 60% of the world's silver for more than a century. With this silver, Spain minted the piece of eight, officially named the Spanish Real de Ocho. Unlike earlier currencies that fluctuated in weight and purity, the Spanish dollar was standardized, 27.47 grams, 93% pure silver. This consistency was revolutionary. Merchants across continents trusted it because they knew exactly what they were getting. By the early 1600s, this coin had become the default payment method in global trade. It bought silk in China, spices in Southeast Asia, furs in Canada, and manufactured goods in Europe. So widespread was its use that historians call it the first international reserve currency. It was literally everywhere found in shipwrecks, buried treasure, trade caravans, and imperial coffers. And this entire global system rested on a single silver coin. The Spanish dollar didn't just travel, it connected the world for the first time. When silver from Potosi reached Spain, it was shipped across the Atlantic to Mexico, then westward to the Philippines, through the famous Manila Galleon trade, the first continuous trade route linking Asia, the Americas, and Europe. Chinese merchants, especially under the Ming and Qing dynasties, demanded silver because it was the backbone of their tax system. In fact, by the 1600s, nearly one-third of all silver mined in the Americas ended up in China. With that demand, the Spanish dollar became more valuable in Asia than in Europe, encouraging even more global trade. This currency helped build major port cities like Manila, Acapulco, Havana, Veracruz, and Seville. Even pirates and privateers targeted Spanish ships because they knew these coins were globally spendable. By the 1700s, European powers like Britain and France used Spanish dollars to settle international debts because their own currencies weren't trusted overseas. The world used a single coin, not because Spain forced it, but because global markets chose it. The dominance of the Spanish dollar didn't end with the fall of the Spanish Empire. Its influence is visible across modern money. The U.S. founding fathers used the Spanish dollar as the benchmark for the American dollar created in 1792. In fact, until 1857, Spanish dollars were still recognized as legal currency in the United States. The famous dollar symbol is widely believed to come from the Spanish coat of arms stamped on the coin. Two pillars wrapped with a banner letter stylized into the dollar sign we use today. Even the idea of dividing money into 8 smaller units, the pieces of 8, inspired early American pricing and accounting systems. And it wasn't just America. China's yuan, Japan's yen, and several Latin American currencies were historically tied to the same weight and purity standard created by the Spanish dollar. The concept of a global reserve currency, a stable, widely accepted standard used for international trade, was essentially pioneered by this coin centuries before the dollar claimed that role. No currency rules forever. The decline of the Spanish silver dollar began in the late 18th century as global power shifted and industrial economies demanded more complex financial systems. Britain began promoting its gold-backed currency, and the international economy slowly moved toward the gold standard. Meanwhile, the flow of silver from the Americas declined, mining costs rose, and China, once the biggest buyer, faced internal turmoil and opium wars that weakened its silver-based system. By the mid-1800s, silver prices collapsed as major countries demonetized silver. In 1873, the United States passed the Coinage Act, ending the use of silver dollars and fully shifting to a gold-based system. With this, the 300-year reign of the Spanish global currency ended. But its legacy lived on in the symbols we use, the systems we trust, and the very idea of how global money should function. It was the world's first reserve currency, not through empire alone, but because it created the first global economic network that connected continents and cultures. The story of the forgotten global currency reminds us that no financial system is permanent, not silver, not gold, not even the dollar. Every currency rises through trust and falls through global change. And today, as the world once again faces economic uncertainty, digital transformation, and new power struggles, the story of the Spanish silver dollar may be more relevant than ever. What will be the next global currency? Will it be a digital coin, a national currency, or something we haven't imagined yet? History suggests that the world always chooses the money it trusts the most. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the financial history that shaped our world, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Historynomica. Your support helps us uncover more hidden stories that change the world economy. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.